Everyone's going all over the place in the NFL. There are people who intend to go on places. There are people who have new homes already. There are people who are still waiting for. So much is going right before things get really hot and heavy. The NFL draft's about a month away, but this is a good time to pause and sort out where things are going. People need to hear our thoughts on this free agency market in the NFL, so we bring it to you. Alex Young and Hayden Nadler join me to talk all things NFL free agency. What's up, gentlemen?
What's going on?
What's going on? How are you?
I'm great. My hair disappeared all of a sudden. I don't have any hair from last week. I don't know what happened. So, I miss it, but it'll come back before we know it. Everything's good with you?
Yeah. Excited to talk some free agency.
All right.
Yeah, me too.
As I said, people must know where we're going with this. They must know where we think things are going. So let us start. So basically, as I mentioned, right before we recorded, the way we're going to break this down, our segments are going to be broken up by each position in the NFL of where people have moved, where people will move, and where people aren't moving. So we'll start with the quarterbacks right now. And what a class of free agency movements, extensions, and potential trades. And I don't know where to start with the quarterbacks, but why don't we continue our conversation from last week? At this time, Aaron Rodgers, he intends to be a New York Jet. And when we talked, yes, at this moment, the deal is not done. Mm-hmm. I have not heard any leaks on where that is going. I've just heard nothing but rumors. But at this moment, Aaron Rodgers wants to be a Jet, but it seems like the Packers are holding it up. And I guess the one thing we can talk about with this, because assuming all things are aligned that Aaron Rodgers will be a Jet, I don't think they want to have that media storm if they don't make the deal and Aaron Rodgers shows up to camp anyways and they give him the cash. Basically, my question for this Aaron Rodgers discussion is, where do you guys, or I should say, when do you guys think this deal is going to be made? Is it going to be made before the NFL draft or after?
I mean, that's an interesting question. I personally think it's going to be made before. I think it needs to be made before, so that way the Jets can know exactly what they're going to surround Aaron Rodgers with. But that being said, I would not be shocked if it happens after because of all the demands, and I think the whole process is taking way too slow. I'm not very happy with how the process is moving, but if you're the Jets, you need to make it before, so that way you can give the team time to get acclimated, who exactly they're going to draft, who are they going to surround Aaron Rodgers with, and I think that's really, really important. Like, are they going to draft another receiver for him? I know they just got Lazard, but are they going to draft another receiver? Are you going to draft more linemen? Like, he needs time to get acclimated with all these new players, so it definitely needs to happen before.
Yeah.
Sorry about you.
I was just going to say, it seems like this is a true across the boardroom conversation. See who blinks first.
Yeah, I agree, Matt. And exactly what he said. Needs to happen before the draft. We said that all kind of last time we talked about the Rodgers situation. But yeah, I think it's really the Jets standing firm, but also the Packers, and it's who drops the ball first, if you will, and who stands down. The whole hang up seems to be over this first round pick that the Packers want, and I think the Jets are kind of just trying to take the leverage of, well, this guy's an old guy, old player. We're still going to give you a good amount of picks, but we don't want to include the first round pick, jeopardize our future potentially for a guy, for a 2-year window. But at the end of the day, you have to just do what needs to get done. If you sacrifice just one first round pick, maybe you just give up this year's and you hold on to your future assets. I think that's fair. But, again, we don't really know the true things, but the rumors right now is that the Packers are really, wanting this first round pick. The Jets don't really want to give it up. But at the end of the day, like we said before, it has to be done before the draft. So you have to do what you got to do. But, everyone's just, strong manning one another and trying to see who comes out the winner. But, they definitely have to figure this out soon because, it's not only Rodgers or the team, it's also the front office, like Hayden alluded to. try to figure out what changes now. They spent hours scouting all these talents. And now if you don't have the first round pick, you have to pivot. You got to make moves. You got to do certain things. And how are you going to bolster the roster if you give up a bunch of picks, whatever the case might be. So it's just a disservice to the Jets right now. It's also a disservice to the Packers and not knowing what their future holds. So, the quicker they get this deal done, the better. And hopefully, they figure this out over the next few days. But, if you just have to give a first round pick to get this thing done, I'd say go for it.
I mean, I think Rodgers has leverage in this situation. So, I mean, I think the Jets need to have a backup plan. If this thing doesn't go through, like I'm hearing Matthew Stafford is a possible backup plan for the New York Jets, which would make a lot of sense. He's a Super Bowl winning quarterback. But I do think the Jets need to have a contingency plan just in case this Aaron Rodgers thing doesn't go through. Because, it's very scary that the fact that deal hasn't been done and it's a lot of things that are happening. But, I'm telling you, I've said this before. I think the Jets should draft the quarterback in this draft in the second or third round. I'm telling you, with whoever they get, they're going to get an old veteran. Give this guy time to develop, and see if maybe he can beat Zach Wilson out for the backup job, or see about that. But I'm very concerned that this is not going to happen, and the Jets going to be stuck at square one again because they're putting all their eggs in one basket. And it's a scary thought as a Jet fan, because in life you need contingency plans, especially because these things all don't go through. So, I mean, like I said, I'm a very big proponent of the Jets drafting someone in this draft at quarterback position.
Yeah. And real quick, Matt, too, I was going to say I agree with the contingency plan, because I mentioned to you guys when we first talked Rodgers intending to be a Jet that they need to have a backup plan in place. And I know we're about to talk about the quarterback free agency market, and there's going to be a big reason why they need to discuss about it, because it's drying up with reliable contingency plan quarterbacks. So it's, they really need to, figure out what they're going to do here and do it quickly, because soon enough, there's not going to be any quarterbacks to pluck out of the market that are going to be, at least helpful for the Jets.
Yeah, I mean, like you said before, yeah.
It doesn't seem that there are many options, like you said, in the veteran market. I'd have to, if so Hayden, right now the Jets have the 13th pick and the Packers have the 15th, and you say regardless, maybe not in the first round, but second or third, that's when you draft your quarterback.
Yeah, I do.
Do you think they should switch the spots to the 13th through 15th? I know you don't trust Joe Douglas to make this big move.
It depends what you can get. I mean, if you could get the lineman, you think at 15. Like I think they should draft a lineman at 13. That's who I personally think they should be drafting. But I mean, we'll see. I think they need a lineman at 13, because the line. I mean, they got someone. They got someone recently, Schweitzer. I think they got a lineman in the New York Jets, or someone, or some recently a lineman they got. But in free agency, but like that's not good enough. Their free agent linemen they've signed have been absolutely terrible. So, I think you got to draft someone in the draft at 13, because their line is. And especially considering Rodgers isn't a very mobile quarterback, I mean, you're not getting a guy like Lamar who can evade tacklers consistently, who runs like a 4.5, 4.6. Aaron Rodgers is a 40-year-old man. If you don't protect him, he's going to get hurt immediately. We've seen that older quarterbacks get hurt, like this. So, it's the line has to be better.
For sure. Personally. And, we could go all day on Aaron Rodgers. We spent 45 minutes on him last week. So really, it is just a waiting game for us here in the whole NFL. But so much on the line. And just my last question, I hate it again. Do you think Joe Douglas is going to get this right, this trade, as of the 20th of March, 2023?
I mean, God help me. I don't even want to answer that question, because I have zero trust at all, zero faith in Joe Douglas to get the job done, zero. But I mean, it's not really in his hands; it's in the quarterback's hands. So I think every Jet fan shouldn't be confident in him. I think he's done an absolutely terrible job. I've said it before so many times. The job he's done as GM has been probably the worst in Jets history. He's the most overrated GM in the history of the Jets. I will actually say that. I'm on record of saying that. So I don't really trust him. That being said, I can't really lose faith, and hopefully they have a quarterback. So it's tough for me to say.
Fair
But
enough.
you shouldn't be trusting Joe Douglas if you're a Jet fan. Like you're moronic if you have any trust in him after the last 4 to 5 years.
Well, we'll see what happens ultimately. If anything, put it through your Madden trade. Put it through the Madden trade sequence. See if it matches up. But it's going to be very interesting. And of course, the other quarterback, the other big name quarterback, where we're still trying to figure out where he's going. Yet it seems that our various intentions. And I'm talking about Lamar Jackson. At this time, he has a non-exclusive franchise tag from the Baltimore Ravens, which means he can still shop a new deal and he can be offered a new contract, and the Ravens have the right to match it. At this moment.
I'm going to tell you who I think he should go to, personally.
Tell us.
I think he should go to the Patriots. That's Patriots. Who I think the team. I think the Patriots have some weapons. They have a great defensive coach. They're going to be working with a new offensive coordinator with Bill O'Brien. I mean, I know they have Mac Jones, but I mean, you're telling me a guy who's an all-pro, you wouldn't possibly trade Mac Jones to a team like the Texans who needs a quarterback? Who wouldn't take a shot and trade him to the Texans, maybe get Lamar Jackson at quarterback? Like, if you have Lamar available with the New England, I mean, he's a huge upgrade over Mac Jones. And I feel like with that defense and Bill Belichick, they would be a Super Bowl contending team, actually, with Lamar. And especially in the AFC East, where you have, right now, you got Josh Allen, you may have Rodgers. Like, you need an elite guy. And the Patriots make a ton of sense in my personal opinion.
Yeah, and the big question is do we know how Bill Belichick feels about Mac Jones? He definitely took a step backwards last year after a very good rookie year. Missed the playoffs, and yeah, that is an interesting mix here. Before I offer my hat in this, Alex, Lamar Jackson at this moment, what is he gonna do?
I think he's going. Personally, I think he's going back to Baltimore. I think Baltimore is waiting to see what team bites on giving him or proposing him a contract. But I don't know why, because we've seen it in other sports. Sometimes when you let another team, offer you a player a contract, sometimes it's, what we consider a poison pill contract, where it's just like ludicrous at the team to match it. But again, the teams that sign him have to give up 2 first-round picks. So, Baltimore kind of could just wait because, a team could wait and see, or might not want to begin with the will of 2 first-round picks right now for him, even though he's a, former MVP. But it's just weird to me that the market's been extremely slow for him. I would think at least one team would be all in on him. The team we hear often is the Dolphins, but however, the Dolphins don't have their first-round pick, so they would have to wait till after the draft. So I'll offer him a signing sheet.
Extension. They did extension.
Yeah, and they did 2 or 5th-year options. So, like, why would they even, go in on him after doing that move? So, it's just, that was a team that was floating around and they pick up Tua, like I said. So, it's just weird. It's weird that the market's out there. But like I said, I think the Ravens are kind of just sitting there letting another team do the work. And they'll just match it. I don't think a team is going to go crazy and offer him, like a $50 million per year deal or 60 or something, kind of wild, even though that's how the quarterback market's trending. I think he's going to get his market value somewhere. He wants it fully guaranteed. And like I said, I think at the end of the day, he's going to be a Raven. I think they're just waiting for a team to bite on it and they'll just match that contract and not have to do any of the work.
Where do you think the resentment has come from for Lamar Jackson? Why is it taking so long for this former MVP All-Pro to get signed? Whether it's, did he quit on his team, that or there's some people internally in the Baltimore organization feels that, or is it an attitude problem? Like, what is it?
I think.
For me, sorry, I need to go.
Oh no, you can go. You got it. I mean,
I was just gonna say, for me, I think it's him not having an agent makes this whole process weird, right? Mm-hmm. I think it doesn't help. I know you can have a direct line to Lamar, but again, for fine tuning and certain things like that, just easy to have a middleman to kind of help all that, present everything to your player, get the deal. So I think it's that. But I think it's just injury prone and the proneness of the type of player he is. He's a running quarterback. he has a decent arm. I think that's going to help. Looking for your money, you want security. Why not go out? Next thing you know, if you see money. So I wouldn't say quit on his team. I think when we talked about this a while ago, before Hayden joined us, I think we all kind of agreed that he was just looking out for himself. It wasn't just being like, I'm done. I'm quitting. I think he wasn't 100%. And he just thought it'd be safer not to play. We've seen someone, RG3, for example, come back in a playoff game with a banged up knee, and he was never the same. So I think there's a couple different factors. But, I don't know if there's resentment in the front office. It's just been a weird thing because it's been quieted. Like, we haven't heard a teammate speak out or anything like that. So it's just weird, this whole process. Like I said, I feel like the Ravens are really just sitting there letting someone do the work for them, and then they'll bring him in, which is bizarre that they're not taking the precipice to get this guy back. I don't know. It's a very odd situation that I don't think we've seen before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's definitely, you could say that again.
I mean, I think what's going on with Lamar is people are concerned about his injury history and his style of play. That's what I really think is really deterring people, is that he's been injured a lot. His style of play is very run heavy, and just the way he plays is very dangerous. Technically, usually those players like that, like Michael Vick and running quarterbacks in the NFL, are usually hurt all the time because they sacrifice their bodies. So it's a big risk taking him on. I personally think that's why some teams are a little bit reluctant, even though when he plays, he's an all-pro. It's not quite like Jimmy Garoppolo, because Jimmy Garoppolo's been hurt a lot more. But I mean, it's a little bit similar. I think teams are a little bit hesitant because, I mean, also you have to run a specific style of offense around him. Like they ran an offense in Baltimore with Greg Roman. That's very specific to his style and very specific to the option offense and how exactly he moves the ball. So if you don't have an offensive coordinator who's kind of willing to adjust, like you have to adjust your whole system for Lamar Jackson, in my personal opinion. So he's the type of player. It's kind of a little more difficult to work with him than it is guys like who are prototypical pocket passers, because there's more you can do with him, but that also makes it a little bit more challenging for an OC and an offense to really work with that.
Yep. Absolutely. It's a real mystery, but I'm going to go with Alex's theory too. I think it's all about having the team do it for him, quote unquote. I know that I believe Lamar said the initial offer was 135 and over multiple years. I know we've wanted as much as 160. We all know the market was set from the Deshaun Watson deal, but yeah, it's there's so much factors in it. This is probably going to go drag on and on and on until we're all tired of it. And let's keep it going, because clearly this isn't going to change anytime soon. But hopefully it does. And Baltimore too can have focus on what they could do in the future. Remember, they didn't make the playoffs, and it's a mystery, absolutely. So I'm going to name you three of the bigger name deals that took place in the offseason so far. Jimmy Garoppolo got signed by the Vegas Raiders. Derek Carr goes to the New Orleans Saints. Baker Mayfield goes to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Out of those three signings, who's going to do the best in their new team?
Who's it? Jimmy G, Derek Carr, and
Baker Mayfield.
Baker.
Okay.
And it seems like these three are going to start at this time, at least, unless somebody
Unless Baker gets beaten out of camp by, is it Kyle Trask?
Yeah.
To me, it's Derek Carr. I just think that everything's there for him. He has a star running back. They brought in Jamal Williams, which had an electric press conference. If you guys haven't seen that, it was hilarious, as Jamal Williams is. He has a run game. The defense is turning a corner. He has some weapons in Olave. They kind of use Taysom Hill in various different roles. So they have pieces there. I think Derek Carr is going to do well in that offense. Saints always have usually a pretty solid offense. So I see Derek Carr doing the best. It's just, to me, Jimmy G would be second. It's just, I don't know what the Raiders' plans are. It's been a very weird offseason looking at what the Raiders have been doing. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. But to me, I think Derek Carr kind of has the division that's open and the weapons to be successful. So I think Derek Carr is going to, do the best out of those three.
Who do I think is going to do the best? I think the quarterback who has the most to prove is Baker Mayfield, actually. I feel like on
Really?
Tampa Bay, he's kind of trying to resurrect his career. So I think this could be a great chance for him to really prove that why he was the number one pick. That he led. People forget that Baker Mayfield led the Cleveland Browns to their first playoff appearance in, I want to say, like 25 years when they made the playoffs. In 1994, they won their first playoff game. Not 1994. They won their first playoff game since 1994 with Baker Mayfield. So this is a talented quarterback who just needs the right weapons around him. And I feel like with Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, and the pieces they have in Tampa Bay, I feel like he's actually probably the best setup for success if he can win the starting job out of all those quarterbacks.
He does have some big shoes to fill.
You know,
And he did have some success in LA for a little bit, Rick, and the last game of the year was a disaster.
Yeah.
I mean, when the guy was playing in Cleveland, he was playing with a torn labrum. I mean, the guy actually has a pretty good record. I mean, 2020, they went 11-5. He threw 26 touchdowns, 8 picks. Guy's got 102 touchdowns and 64.
Yeah, and he is very clutch too.
He's honestly, he's pretty good. Considering, did you know what the Browns were before he took over at quarterback?
Oh, yeah.
0-15, 0-16.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he got them back to respectability. So, I mean,
yeah.
kudos to him. I feel like he's a lot
And he's
better
still
of a
young.
quarterback.
He's
He's a lot better of a quarterback than people make it out. So, I'm high on him. I actually think he played pretty good towards the end of the year with the Rams. He got hurt with the Panthers. Just wasn't his year. But people were getting on him in Cleveland. I mean, he was playing with a fucking torn labrum. So I mean that's of course he's not going to be as strong.
I always have respect for Baker. I don't know if just his last few stops, obviously Carolina and then the Rams, there's been flashes, but not brilliance, and not the consistency that we saw in Cleveland. So I do like your pick, and I think he's definitely intriguing to watch. I think it's definitely something to look at this offseason, early in the season, see what he does in Tampa. We'll see. There are some solid weapons there, so we just have to see what happens. But I do like that pick, just from your points. He's still young. He's coming off some injuries. So we'll see. Maybe he comes in motivated and wants to try to, have a second leg to his career here.
Do you think that there is pressure on Derek Carr to finally get that playoff monkey off his back? And do you think that pressure will kind of get him? Derek Carr has been one of the best statistical quarterbacks throughout the 2010s, and he has great numbers, but he's never really won the playoff game. Do you think there's pressure on him this year to win that division? And do you think that pressure could be a negative factor in his development this season?
I think Derek Carr is going to be able to figure it out in New Orleans. He's playing with a coach he's familiar with. They are restructuring a lot of his weapons, as Alex mentioned, and maybe even you could have a return to form Michael Thomas, but reckon we seem to be saying that every year. But the last 3 seasons. But I think Derek Carr understands the pressure on his back, and he has dealt with so much pressure throughout the last few years. We all know the mess in Vegas, from Henry Ruggs to John Gruden and
having the new coach Bisaccia, but he was good actually. I mean, he made the playoffs that year. So
yeah, Bisaccia should have been there.
Yeah, Bisaccia should have been the head coach.
He should have gotten hired as head coach.
I agree with you on that.
Yeah, I think definitely. I think he'll be able to be fine. I think he's in a good location that has a very loyal fan base, but not a humongous spotlight that he could crumble in. And that were some of the things people worried about when he was considered for the Jets job. Could he really handle the New York market? And I think the New Orleans market is a better fit. And
I mean, people are comparing it to like when Matt Stafford went to LA and won the Super Bowl. I don't think they necessarily have the team around him in
it's a very old team,
New Orleans. But also, like, I mean, the NFC South is the worst division of football right now, so it's it's definitely wide open. It's theirs for the taking. I feel like it's anyone's for the taking.
It's I mean, we've seen that division be the weirdest division, I think, in football these last few years. So
the starting quarterbaks right now,
the division is wide open, but it should be the Saints. I think should be the favorite to win the division.
The Panthers are going to draft a quarterback, so they're probably. But right now, it's Andy Dalton. Taylor Heineke or Desmond Ridder will be the quarterback in Atlanta, and Baker Mayfield will be the quarterback for the Bucs. So, like,
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like Derek Carr is the best of those four.
Yeah,
But
sure.
I mean, I feel like Baker Mayfield also has the most to prove. So that's why I'm taking Baker Mayfield with my pick.
All right. So San Francisco's very interesting as Brock Purdy, the Mr. Irrelevant Wonder, helped the 49ers make a deep run in the playoffs. Obviously gets hurt in the NFC Championship. He's going to be gone for a long time. The 49ers signed Sam Darnold. They are still awaiting Trey Lance to return, and obviously Jimmy G is gone. Do you think with this signing, who's going to get the starting job, Trey Lance or Sam Darnold?
Trey Lance.
What about Brock Purdy? Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy is a good starting job.
Purdy shouldn't be bad. I think they said he's going to start resuming throw activities in a few months. So he might be ready by the season.
I think
it depends on his throwing regimen. How his throwing goes.
I think Brock Purdy's going to be ready by the season.
Okay, at this moment, reported by The Athletic on March 10th, Purdy is expected to begin throwing 3 months and should be recovering in 6, which will put him near a week 1 return, the source says.
So, I mean, I would say that the quarterback week 1, difficult to say. Sam Darnold.
I think it's Lance still week 1. I think they're going to ease Purdy back. You got to see what Lance is, because if Purdy's your guy going forward, you're going to have to trade Lance at some point.
Yeah,
right?
I know. I feel like you got to start Lance just so even you could see his trade value too.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
But
exactly.
I mean, and probably have Darnold be the backup.
Yep.
But I mean, it's a very tough decision because you got 3 pretty like Sam Darnold's pretty capable quarterback. He was pretty good towards the end of the year with Carolina.
Yeah,
I was like a running game. You give him Christian McCaffrey, like
he still has a lot left.
He's
back. He's
back
in
with
California.
Weapons. He's actually pretty decent with weapons. I mean, but he's a quarterback. You need to have a lot around him. But I mean, it's tough for me to say because the best quarterback right now, probably out of those 3, is it's hard to say. I mean, probably the most experienced is Sam Darnold. So
yeah, I think the most experienced is Sam.
But I mean, probably the best quarterback.
That's my pick. I would pick Sam Darnold to start, assuming he wins the job.
Yeah, I mean, he's gonna have to compete versus Trey Lance, and I feel like Trey Lance has more upside than Sam Darnold.
For sure, 1,000%. Trey Lance has more of the upside, which is why I said if you're planning to have Purdy be your guy in the future, you gotta have to give your person with upside some chance to showcase himself.
Yeah, keep going.
No, you go.
Well, do you have any more points that's going to bring up something after?
Yeah, I mean, I will say, I mean, what the 49ers are doing is pretty smart because you saw that with the situation they had last year when all their quarterbacks got hurt. So I feel like bringing in 3 competent quarterbacks is definitely a good idea. I think you can never have too many quarterbacks. You saw it in the NFC Championship game last year. So right now you got Trey Lance with upside, you got a veteran in Darnold, and then you got a young rookie in Purdy. I actually feel like it's a pretty good QB room. I think maybe you sign Josh Johnson or whatever in like the practice squad or another quarterback. It's definitely it's a pretty decent quarterback room. Not that any of those guys are any fantastic, but you have 3 capable quarterbacks.
And also the Falcons cut Mariota. They signed Taylor Heineke, Desmond Riddler. Still trying to figure out where he goes. As Hayden mentioned, it's either going to be Heineke or Riddler. And Ritter. And
he could become the Riddler if he's starts becoming good. That could be his nickname.
Whether him or they draft somebody, or personally, I always felt Lamar Jackson would be a good fit at Atlanta.
I'm with you on that.
I'm with you too.
I'm with you on that.
Yeah, especially without that very young, explosive offense with arguably somebody could be the best tight end in the game.
Lamar Jackson and Kyle Pitts would be fun to watch because he loves Mark Andrews in Baltimore.
Yeah,
right.
You have more athletic Mark Andrews. That'd be a fun dynamic duo.
And allegedly that they are clear on showing their disinterest in acquiring Lamar. But out of those 2 guys, do you go with who do you go with? I mean, I think it's obvious. Taylor Heineke. Taylor Heineke is a very professional quarterback, and he has a good experience. I understand some of the concerns regarding his accuracy and stay in the pocket, but out of those two who still need to unlock their potential fully, I would go with Taylor Heineke.
I think if I'm talking about the best quarterback, I feel like Heineke may be a little bit better at this point, but I feel like in terms of making a decision on the future, you have to start Desmond Ridder, and then Heineke be the backup, and then you could always replace Desmond Ridder if the team is like 2-3 or something. But I mean, who they should go with? Probably Taylor. In terms of organizational and for the future, they should go with Desmond Ridder. But I mean, if they want to win games now, probably Taylor Heineke. But they should go with Desmond Ridder,
especially in the weak division.
Yeah,
I'm big on Desmond Ridder. I think he got thrown into a bad situation late last year. Just how Mariota kind of bailed on the team on him. It didn't seem like he was the perfect mentor for Ridder. So he kind of got thrown to the wolves. But I think like Hayden said, from an organizational standpoint and seeing your future, you give the guy some promise here. You give him some run. If you're running, great. If you're losing, see how he is in losses. If they're losing maybe because of the defensive thing and not really him, and he's doing everything similar to what we saw with Justin Fields, right? Or no matter what he did, the team was still up losing, but there was a bunch of promise. We all loved him at the second half of the year. That's great. But if he just doesn't look ready, that's why you bring in a guy like Heineke, which we've seen before, right? The type of guy just to come in certain situations. He's not selfish. He tries to do the best to help his team win. So, if it's really a lost cause with Desmond by like week 6 or 7 and you just don't think he's your guy, then maybe that's the point where you kind of see if, Heineke can come in and maybe turn the fortunes around on the season, especially like we've seen with that division where you can be pretty much out of it until 3 weeks left to go and somehow still manage to win the division, So it's crazy. So we'll
yeah. I mean, I hear you on that, but like their Atlanta Falcons are trying to determine who their franchise quarterback is after Matt Ryan left. So this is a very pivotal year for them to see if Desmond Ridder they think is the future. So you have to start Ridder. That's why I think you have to start. You drafted a guy in the 3rd round, so you gotta take your lumps and take your chances with him. It wasn't necessarily a guy like you drafted at like in the 1st round, so there's not as much pressure on him, which is I think a good thing in a way for this guy. But I mean, I feel like if he gets a shot and he takes advantage of it this year, why can't he be the quarterback moving forward?
If only he could bring Matt Ryan back and say, "We're sorry, we're sorry, we're sorry. Please forgive us, give us another chance." But they won't. Sports is a cruel thing. But why don't we just quickly hit on the 2 quarterbacks who got major extensions this season? Geno Smith resigns and Daniel Jones resigns, which according to some people, the sky is falling. I've never seen so many people pissed off at an extension. So first, definitely Geno Smith. He's earned it. Comeback player of the year. Shows legitimacy. Got the Seahawks to the playoffs. They could have easily won that game too. I think that's good on Geno's part. But Daniel Jones, obviously that big debate. This is what ultimately became of his contract. He signs 4 years, $160 million with $35 million in incentives. Daniel Jones got paid. Did he deserve it?
I don't necessarily know if he deserved the money, but I mean, people can get mad about it, but like people have to understand what the value of a quarterback is, and the value of a quarterback is right now is $40 million. Like for that position, knowing you have consistency of the quarterback, people need to understand that that's what the market value is. It doesn't mean it's an inflated market right now because so many teams have questions at quarterback. So in order to get your guy, even if he's not the best guy, you're gonna have to pay a little bit more than what you would want. So it's hard for me to say that I didn't love the deal. I didn't love the deal in terms of the 4 years, but the money I can't say, was just a crazy amount of money. I mean, 30 to 40 million was I would say 40 million was the max you give him, but I mean, 40 million was about what quarterbacks are making right now. I think Derek Carr got 35.
Yeah.
Which, Derek Carr got 35 million.
Gets 36.
Kyler Murray, I mean, you can't look at like if he's the 7th highest paid quarterback right now, you can't compare him to like the top 5 highest paid quarterbacks because obviously the market fluctuates. So it's like you can't really say, oh, because he's the 7th highest paid quarterback right now because there's such a deficiency at the position, not because he's the 7th best quarterback overall. So like people want to say, oh, look, this guy is getting less or whatever. Okay, that's when they that's when there weren't as many questions about the position. So it's like, people didn't feel they have to pay as much because it wasn't as much of a premier position as it is right now. So it's I don't really agree with the detractors saying, oh, it's the most amount of money. It's really not. Like he got around what the market was. So I can't fault the Giants for doing that move. Do I think 4 years was a lot for a guy that his career year is 3,200 yards and 15 touchdowns? 100%. But I mean, if the Giants want continuity and they want to show that they're committed to this guy who did lead you to a playoff appearance, who is a great leader, who is respected, and his teammates love him, I don't necessarily think that's so bad.
No, I agree. And a lot of people just see the money and they lose their damn minds. You need continuity in this league, but the thing is, the Giants are smart. They can, as much as you hate to say it, they can get out of this deal after 2 years. It's essentially a 2-year deal.
Someone. 100%.
They could move on from him after 2 years before they have to give him a boatload of money, right? They can commit to him, they can keep him on, but if it doesn't work after these next 2 years, they can cut bait and start over. So everyone's just losing their minds because they think 4 years and the Giants are with him, right? It's a lot of guaranteed money early on, signing bonus, all this stuff. So that's the reason why it looks so inflated as it does. But the Giants have an out after 2 years. Me and Matt, as Giants fans, don't want to see another quarterback after 2 years. But if that's the case, we can get out of it. But if we want Daniel to be here, he had a career year. We only hope he goes up from here and works even better in this system with Dable. We'll talk about it a little bit, but they're adding weapons to this team. They're giving them depth. There's obviously offensive line questions that we can talk about more in depth later on. But with this deal, I'm not freaking out as a Giants fan. Like I said, a lot of Giants fans were. It's too much money. It's he played the quarterback market. He did well. His agency did well. Props to his agency team for doing what they did. They did their due diligence and they got him a nice contract. But like I said, he doesn't have a huge cap hit this year. All right, he has a big signing bonus, but he doesn't. So hopefully the team uses that to their advantage. And like I said, if all falls apart this year or the next year, the Giants are not necessarily tied with him with all that money. They can, in fact, get out of it, and it's not as terrible as people may think. So pump the brakes. It's great to have contingency. Just don't look at the money and think that's it. There's a lot of complicated things that go into NFL contracts that go over our heads. But like I said, the more you look into this deal, it kind of works out for both sides at the end of the day.
I mean, I feel like this year is more like last year was such a surprise for people who caught everyone by surprise, but like this year, he finally has weapons. You got Darren Waller, you got Barkley's coming back with the franchise tag. You got I want to say they got Paris Campbell too. Paris Campbell. Right?
Yep. Paris Campbell, Sterling Shepard, and Slayton comes back too.
And I think they're going to draft more playmakers in the draft. Yep. I think Wan'Dale Robinson coming back? Wan'Dale Robinson do?
Wan'Dale will be back from his ACL probably.
So yeah, they have a lot of weapons this year. You got probably one of the top 2 or 3 tight ends in all of football.
Yep.
So I mean, you gotta prove it this year. Like if you can't win with this team, we'll see. Yeah. I mean, I think this is more like the prove it year than last year was, because last year no one really expected anything. This year people are actually expecting something. So there's more expectations this year than there were last year. Arguably.
Yeah, he arguably has the most pressure on his shoulders coming to this season, and he clearly doesn't seem to be the type to worry about it. Keeps to himself. You don't even know where he's having lunch. I think he's gonna be okay.
He's a good representation of New York. I've always said I like the guy personally. I like who he represents. I mean, he's very good with the media. He doesn't talk too much. I mean, like I said, he's worth the money in part because he's not a distraction to the team. Like there's other quarterbacks who are distractions, like the talk. Like Baker Mayfield can be a distraction. Like Dak Prescott's in the news every other week. I mean, just some of these quarterbacks, like they're very, very much a distraction because they're everything else off the field. You've never had that issue with Daniel Jones. Like Daniel Jones has been a great leader. Like I will say
absolutely. That. You couldn't even say that. Couldn't say that any better. And he's literally a hater by association. They just don't like him.
Eli 2.0.
I mean, and he's not the best quarterback, but wouldn't you rather have someone who's stable and can give a guiding hand rather than someone who's, electric but causes shit off the field. I mean,
Yeah. I mean,
you know,
we had stability, like I said, like Eli before Daniel, and there's times we wanted to rip our hair out watching Eli. There's times we wanted to rip our hair out watching Daniel, but the same thing they had in common was they're great leaders and they weren't distraction off the field. We loved them for the personality and who they were. Yeah, so that's why I appreciate Daniel. It's just not a headache like a lot of
For
some
sure.
of the players in the league.
Just a chill ass dude. That's all we want. And yeah, like I said, people just hate him for no reason. It's like that episode of Recess. I don't like you, TJ, just because. That's what happens, Daniel Jones. Now, looking at the running backs who made moves, not a lot, but there are some. But the big thing is, first, Saquon does get tagged on, and he has a prove-it year, getting paid $12 million, $13 million. The official
For
number,
the franchise tag?
yeah,
It's like
10.
10. I think
10.
it's 10. Is it
Excuse
10?
me.
Yeah.
I think he was trying to get those numbers.
10.8. It's like close to 11, I think, something like that.
So people thought that the opposite would happen. Maybe Saquon gets the extension and Daniel Jones gets the tag, prove a year, but it's Saquon. Can Saquon, with this tag, as long as he stays healthy, I feel like he could really earn a contract. And did Saquon earn his franchise tag?
Yeah.
I mean, Saquon Barkley, when healthy, is probably one of the top. I would say probably the top 2 or 3 most explosive backs in the league when he's healthy. He's absolutely incredible. I even said that. I've said this before. I think coming out of college, he's the most explosive back I ever saw since Adrian Peterson. Like ever. Like I think what he can do, he's an amazing talent if he stays healthy. And you saw it last year.
It's Derrick Henry than him in terms of health, and
you got Nick Chubb too. Chubb. McCaffrey, but I mean, you got to put Saquon Barkley in that same class of running backs, definitely.
Yeah, I agree, and I think Matt, I think he was looking between 13 to 15. I think that was what he was potentially asking, and the Giants were closer to like 10 to 12.
Okay.
So I think that's where the discrepancy was. But yeah, no, I mean, he's a top 5 back when healthy. He proved that he was healthy. He came in last year, had a great year. I've had a bounce back year, but again, I think the Giants are nervous, as we all are as fans, seeing, what happens to running backs after a certain amount of years. And now we see what happened with Zeke Elliott getting released by Dallas, that sometimes not giving the running backs, these super big contracts is worth your money and worthwhile. And I think that's where the Giants are right now. I think that's how the running back market, unfortunately, is going to be. I don't think it's going to be at the all-time high like it was a few years back when Kamara and Zeke and McCaffrey are getting these big deals. I think it's gone down, and I think it's just because of the longevity. You never get your money's worth of longevity of the contract. So I think, with the Giants, I want him back, obviously, because when healthy, he's unbelievable. He's an explosive back. He's a home run hitter, and he takes a lot of pressure off Daniel. So I think we'll see what happens here. But, I think the Giants aren't – I hope that those two aren't too far off, and I would want him to get secured. But, I think being the player type he is, I think he will come back even if he's on the franchise tag. I don't think he'll sit out, hopefully. But like I said, I hope they work some sort of extension out because I think he's very important to this team's offense going forward. And I think he just makes Daniel a lot more comfortable when he's around.
Would you say Saquon Barkley is more important to the Giants offense or Daniel Jones? I actually personally think Saquon Barkley is more important to the offense because I think the offense runs around him more than it does Daniel Jones. I mean, without Saquon Barkley last year, without a healthy Saquon Barkley, they don't win all those games. Like, yeah, I mean, they could have won with any quarterback last season when Saquon Barkley ran the ball that well. Yeah. So, I mean, I definitely feel like in order for the offense to really succeed, I think you almost need a healthy Saquon Barkley more than you do Daniel Jones.
Yeah, I mean, Matt, I'll let you fill in too. I agree. If you look at the stats, I think I saw a stat today where we're reading somewhere where it was like Daniel has like almost a 90 or above quarterback rating with Saquon's in the lineup, and it's like a 77 when he's not or something. He like drops pretty dramatically. Yeah, I think Saquon's important. I think he's the motivator of the team. You see that a lot. He's fiery on the sidelines. He gets both sides, fired up and ready to go. He's, great as a leader. I think he can be more vocal than Daniel at times. So I think that helps. But yeah, I mean, I think he's the engine that, lets his whole offense go. they rely on him a lot. So, it's a really, really good question. It's a tough question at the end of the day, but, I think Saquon is just a tad bit in terms of leadership in there, more important to the offense than Daniel. But, I think both of them are great together, which is why, like I said, I think he really needed back here, just because he is important and he's the engine that, allows the offense to click.
Yeah, you need Saquon in that lineup. He's that good. He's that explosive. He's that important. He's that essential. He's that cool. He's that funny. Saquon Barkley's that dude who needs to be here. And I trust as long as he stays healthy and we really continue to improve the line, he'll be okay. Now,
Agreed.
Ezekiel Elliott, that man was a first-round pick. Shows up in a crop top. Was a big name to say the least. And as Alex mentioned, he is no longer a Cowboy and released. Do we see anybody giving Zeke a chance?
Yeah, I feel like there's teams that will be willing to give Ezekiel Elliott a chance.
I would say Buffalo Bills seems like a good fit.
A team to look out for Ezekiel Elliott, actually, maybe the Philadelphia Eagles, because they just they got rid of Miles Sanders. He went to Carolina. So I think Philadelphia may actually be a team that will be looking for Ezekiel Elliott.
I hate both teams. That would be fun to watch. But does he still even have it, do you think? Even if he does sign, do you think he'll be able to perform?
Yeah, I do. I think he's got stuff left in the tank. I mean, it was tough because Tony Pollard really emerged as the number one back. But I mean, they have a void at running back. They have Kenneth Gainwell, Boston Scott, and Rashad Penny. But like Rashad Penny's always hurt. Boston Scott is not a number one guy, and Kenneth Gainwell is another guy who I feel like is kind of inconsistent at times. So Ezekiel Elliott would be a upgrade over that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think he'll get another shot, but I don't think he's the same back. I think he's a situational, like weird short yardage back, if that makes sense, which is just weird. Just a few years ago, he's arguably a top 5 running back in the league, and now you're going to put him in a situation on like 3rd and 2s. It's 2nd and shorts, but I think another team will give a shot. I have no idea what team exactly. I think it's going to be a team that has an established back, and you have Zeke kind of be your backup. So it's going to be interesting. But it's also up to him. And if he's motivated, he made a bunch of money. So if he wants to continue to play, if not, he had a great run. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see over the next few weeks. But like I said, I think it's going to have to be a spot that has a set starter. And then you have him in certain situations, either injury or anything like that.
What became a little more interesting is where the wide receivers in this league moved. And I don't even know where to start because it's that crazy. And I guess we could start with the big move that was made a couple of weekends ago, where the Carolina Panthers traded for the number 1 pick for DJ Moore in exchange for they traded DJ Moore in exchange for the number 1 overall pick in the 2023 NFL draft. The Bears also received the number 9 overall pick, a 2023 second rounder, a 2024 first rounder, and a 2025 second rounder. With that, Carolina replaces him with Adam Thielen, who I don't think is the same player he was. Good for him on getting money, and he's entertaining, but I just don't think it was used to be. And having said all that, DJ Moore goes to the Bears, and they add depth for Justin Fields. Did Carolina ultimately make the right move here? And they're clearly going to get a quarterback.
I do feel like Carolina made the right move here.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's time for them to finally start moving towards the future and drafting a quarterback. They've been kind of shuffling in at quarterback for years now. So I definitely feel like with this pick, they could maybe draft C.J. Stroud, Anthony Richardson, or Levis. So I definitely feel like if they love quarterback, the time
Bryce
is right
Young?
now. I don't know, maybe Bryce Young. I definitely feel like the time is right now for them to draft a quarterback. And I don't feel like them playing this waiting game, filling another stopgap veteran. If they love a quarterback this year, I think the division's very winnable. So it could be a good start for this guy's career if he gets on a team this year that has weapons around him like Adam Thielen. I mean, they just traded DJ Moore, obviously, and I believe Deontay Foreman's gone as well. So
Yes, yeah, he signed. I can't remember where he signed, but he's gone. Yeah,
Deontay Foreman signed with someone else. So they may have to upgrade the offensive weapons. But yeah, I mean, I think Carolina finally has to move on and get a quarterback, and if they have someone.
Yeah, I like Moore going to the Bears. I was hyped up about that. I texted you guys that. I think Fields has a really nice set receiving core going forward. I think Chase Claypool will have a bounce back year. But they have Chase Claypool. They have Darrell Mooney, who had flashes last year and had a connection with Justin Fields. Now you have DJ Moore. So I like it, and Komet. So I like the what they're doing there. But yeah, I think the Panthers are going to take their quarterback and they pick who they want, who they like the most, who they think is going to be most successful. But I think it's a step in the right direction for them. They are kind of retooling on offense. You said, they signed Miles Sanders at running back. They bring in Thielen and as a veteran wide receiver. So
and you have a whole brand new coach at Frig.
Brand new coach. So you have a quarterback, and you have a guy in Andy Dalton, who's a great veteran, a great mentor, to bring in and help teach whoever they take first, and get him ready for the season. If he's either going to start right away or wait a little bit, I assume being a first overall pick, you're probably going to start right away. But we'll see. I think it's time for the Panthers to start making the move in the right direction. This is a really aggressive move. I think the Bears won the trade, in my opinion. But, we'll see who they take with the first pick. And I think it's going to be an exciting future for Carolina. But like I said, I really like this for the Bears because I think adding DJ Moore kind of solidifies their offense even more. And they have a bevy of assets for Justin Fields and this team to develop going forward.
Yeah, I mean, kind of like Daniel Jones, like they're giving all the weapons to Justin Fields to see, he is their guy. We're banking on this guy, so they're giving it to they're basically saying, here you have the weapons now. You got to go out and win, prove to us that you were the guy who has the most rushing yards in the history of the NFL for a single season, and they want to see the explosiveness for there. So with this rushing ability and with the receivers they're added, they're definitely banking on Justin Fields to be the quarterback of the future.
Some other wide receiver moves that were interesting. Just get Allen Lazard. Giants, like I said, Giants bring like it was said here. Giants bring back Darius Slayton and Sterling Shepard for Daniel Jones, adding that Paris Campbell. Brandon Cooks is going to the Cowboys. Juju Smith-Schuster is going to the Patriots. Out of this and some of the other moves that I may have not mentioned, what is the most interesting one to you guys?
Oh, I love the Brandon Cooks to Dallas move. I love that move. Brandon Cooks is one of the most, I would say probably one of the top 3 or 4 most underrated receivers in the entire league.
Mm-hmm.
When healthy. He's just absolutely tremendous. So you're gonna get him. You pair him with CeeDee Lamb, Dalton Schultz. Like that offense is gonna be deadly next year. They got a lot of good weapons for Dak Prescott. So, I mean, I love that move for Dallas. I loved it. I thought it was a great move. Get a guy who's a proven veteran, who's had a great season, who's had great years in the past. Get another pass target for Dak. It's just an incredible move. Like Brandon Cooks has had 1,000 yards in 1, 2,
wasn't it 8? Is it 8?
3, 4, 5, 6. He's had 1,000 yards in 6 seasons that he's been in the league out of the 9 he's played. So like you're getting a guy in 70% of his seasons that's had 1,000 or more yards. So pretty impressive. And he's also played in 2 Super Bowls. So you have a guy with postseason experience as well. He's the first player in NFL history to have 1,000 yards receiving with 3 different teams.
That is insane when you put it that way.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
Also, Jacoby Myers to Vegas is another move of note.
Real quick, because I know our Brian wanted us to shout this out today. Shout out to him for going at Colin Cowherd's ridiculous take today about Brandon Cooks. I think we all agreed that it was insane. Can we stop the narrative that Brandon Cooks is kind of like this wanted entity, if you will? Because everyone keeps bringing up, oh, he went to Bill Belichick didn't want him, or Sean Payton didn't want him, or Sean McVay. Like the Rams and all these other spots. He is, like Hayden said, just I think underrated, undervalued as a receiver. He's never a problem. He's always reliable. he never really asked for a trade until the last few years because it just seemed like, okay, they're rebuilding here. Let me get you something so I can go to a contender. And I think Dallas made a smart move. He's a great, reliable veteran receiver. He's going to be great with CeeDee Lamb. And if injury happens, you can rely on him to step up for those few games that he's out. I'm not saying it's a game changer. I don't think it makes Dallas a Super Bowl team, but I think it's a great addition. It adds depth to the wide receiver position. Hell, as a Giants fan, I would love Brandon Cooks to be a Giant, but he's in Dallas. But
I love him. I love him for the Jets too.
Yeah, like I think he's just.
Like
I think he's just a great productive receiver who is never an issue. And all they had to do is give a fifth and a sixth. It's a low risk, high reward move. And it's like I said, a great move by Dallas. As much as I dislike Dallas as a Giants fan, it's a very, very smart and great move by them. And everyone that is saying it's not going to work because of, CD gets hurt, whatever, Brandon Cooks is going to, no. Stop all that garbage. He is, like I said, got to work there. He's always reliable. And I think it's, like I said, again, an unbelievable move, a great move by Dallas to get in another veteran receiver who is still productive everywhere he goes.
Now,
I'm with you on that.
There are two wide receivers we are very interested in seeing where they go. DeAndre Hopkins and Odell Beckham Jr. One thing with OBJ, with the Brandon Cooks move, people said Odell to the Cowboys is a very real possibility.
Well,
I think with this move, that is gone. But Odell Beckham Jr., it seems the only team at this moment that may be a fit, and whether these reports are true that a certain quarterback requested him, but he denies it. But Odell Beckham to the Jets. How about that? And he's, for some reason, wants to get paid like a top receiver again. Reckon he's been out of the league for a whole year and was playing hurt through most of it. I got to say to Hayden, what would it be like if you saw Odell Beckham in a Jets uniform and Aaron Rodgers? If only it was 2015.
They would have no excuse not to go to the Super Bowl with Aaron Rodgers and OBJ. I think that would be an unbelievable pairing. I don't necessarily know how that would be a media frenzy with OBJ and Aaron Rodgers. So it would definitely be an adjustment. And I think the Jets have had a lot of problems in the past with the media. So I don't know if I would love the move. I think as a talent base, I think it would be an unbelievable move because you would pair him with Garrett Wilson, Elijah Moore, Denzel Mims. Like it would be great for the Jets receiving core. I just don't know exactly how it would play out in New York because he had issues when he was with the Giants.
Can he still play? He is coming off essentially back-to-back ACL injuries, but
I think he still play.
Okay, so you do. I think it'd be a dumb move for the Jets to go all in, and if they want to give his alleged ask of $20 million a year, you better be 2013 Odell Beckham Jr. I think that'd be a ridiculous move to try to re-sign him.
It would. The money is a factor. I mean, if you could get him at a cheaper price, then maybe. But I agree with you 100%. He's probably not worth the money he's asking for, especially coming off 2 years of an ACL injury. And he hasn't played in a while, but I mean, when he played with the Rams, he was pretty awesome.
He was. But
he was the catalyst that got him to that Super Bowl that people forget. When he got that team flipped a different switch when he got there. It just was crazy. I mean, I think he kind of like joked on Twitter and kind of refuted that he's asking for that much. But then again, who knows? It's Odell.
Yeah.
I think. I can see the Jets. I don't know if you go there. I see more of a Baltimore or a team that's wide receiver needy that might spend the extra few million to get them on board. But yeah, I mean, it's tough because you don't know what version you're going to get. Are you going to get the Rams version that was great on the field, was great in the locker room, not too crazy off the field or with the media? I think we're getting a more experienced Odell, a more grown-up Odell, compared to when he was with the Giants when he was young and became this star overnight and didn't really know kind of how to handle it. So I think it's going to be interesting to see. I think the media at times overhyped Odell as this issue. But it seems like everywhere he goes, the team falls in love with him. They love having him around. So I don't know what really his contract demands are at the end of the day. I would not pay him $20 million. He hasn't played in a year. But if you can get him on a decent deal, 7-8 million or whatever as a prove it deal, or give him incentives on a multi-year deal where it just increases for him, go for it. I think it's someone to bring in, but again, I would not do anything north of 15 million for Odell right now.
And quick on DeAndre Hopkins, is he going to land a job somewhere? I think it seems New England possibly, or could he be going to Atlanta or the Ravens and the Chiefs as well?
I was just about to say the Ravens. I think him with Lamar would be a great addition. Give him a great number one. If Lamar decides to go back to the Ravens. But I mean, the Patriots also are a good spot too because they don't really have too many weapons at the receiving position. They have Jacoby Myers, I think, is coming back. He's their best guy, and you obviously pair him with the quarterback with Bill Belichick. The Patriots have had a known propensity to go after big name free. They did that with Randy Moss. When they signed Randy Moss, he was probably one of the greatest receivers ever for New England. So I mean, they haven't really taken a chance on like a big name star in a while, the Patriots. So it's a guy they could take a chance on, but they haven't really made a gigantic move, the Patriots, in a very, very long time.
Have been very quiet over the past few years with
I could see him
Cam Newton.
Yeah, I mean, I could see him in New England. I know, they kind of do not a weird flop, but like Jacoby goes to the Raiders, Juju goes to the Patriots. I could see them adding more depth in getting D-Hop, but I would love it if he goes to Baltimore, like Hayden said. I think you don't have to trade too much to get him at this point. He is on a bigger deal, but if you have Lamar, you give him a true, another great weapon to have, another security blanket, not named Mark Andrews. You give him a true receiver that's dynamic, and we saw, when he came back from suspension last year, him and Kyler Murray, he was just going off. He was getting like 10 receptions a game. So. I think he'll be on the move, just the way how the Cardinals are looking right now. I think they're kind of going in some weird hybrid rebuild, retool, whatever you want to call it.
They're a weird franchise.
They're a really weird franchise.
They suck.
They're in a world of hurt, especially after giving, Kyler the bag. We'll see. For no reason. So it'd be interesting to see what happens, but I think if the Cardinals are smart, you sell him now when you still get some assets for him. Some decent assets, I should say, for him.
The tight ends, not a lot of moves, but the big one with Darren Waller going to the Giants. Alex, tell me about your excitement and how much this deal, assuming Darren Waller can stay on the field, can change everything in this offense.
I love it. I was shocked. I wasn't expecting that big of a deal, if you will.
That came out of nowhere.
It really came out of nowhere because we heard like Waller was on the market, but then they gave him that extension, and then you thought he was going to be in Oakland, not Oakland, Las Vegas for a little bit. Then all of a sudden you get a report. It's like, oh, Giants made a trade for a tight end. You're like, huh? Who? And Darren Waller? Hell yeah! And you pretty much trade Kadarius Toney for Darren Waller.
So Shane, baby.
Joe Shane, great move. And it's really if he stays healthy. And we really hope he does. I think it just adds a great weapon for Daniel. You have two great tight ends now in Waller and Bellinger. I know Bellinger got hurt, but before he got hurt, he was looking really solid. He was looking like a really nice player. He's a great blocker and a receiver at the same time. Whereas Waller is really like a really, really dynamic receiver. I'm super excited. I love Darren Waller. He's a great story in this league. A lot of people know, he struggled with a lot of personal issues in his past. He's overcome them. And he's been great. He helps out kids who have similar issues or tries to prevent kids from falling in the same demons that he had. So I think he's going to be great in New York. He looks excited to be here. It's a great move. Like I said, low risk. I mean, I know it's a 3rd round pick, but you got it from the Chiefs. You flip it for a guy who has the potential, to be an All-Pro or a Pro Bowl, if not a Pro Bowler. And like I said, just adds a great security blanket, for Daniel, and a great dynamic weapon to have for him.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, he just got married to Kelsey Plum, so that's another thing. Like, congrats to him.
Congrats to him.
Great getting married. I mean, yeah, I mean, what thing about Darren Waller is he almost lines up like a wide receiver. So like you can play him out wide in the slot. You could play him, to be a deep threat. Like he can. Daniel Bellinger could be that prototypical like pass catching tight end, but like, and then you add Darren Waller, he's pretty much another receiver. He's that like versatile. So it's like it's interesting. I think the two tight end set's going to be a great thing with Bellinger and Darren Waller. I mean, they used to do that. Like the Patriots had that with, not comparing it to Gronk and Hernandez when they had that, but I mean,
Yeah, the same kind of thing where
it's a
two
two tight
formidable
end set
receivers. Yep.
would be great for the
Mm.
Giants. I think.
Bring it back. The two tight ends offenses.
Yep.
Brian
Missed with this.
Daboll and Mike Kafka will be able to do some great things. I just know it. And just one more thing regarding offensive positions, offensive line's been moving around. The biggest one is Orlando Brown going to the Bengals. Do we think Orlando Brown going to the Bengals on a 3-year deal is the thing? Is he going to be that special offensive lineman that could create the ultimate protection for Joe Burrow? As we know, the Bengals' ultimate weakness is protecting Joe Burrow. Is he the one who will be the difference maker here?
I mean, it will definitely help at the end of the game. I mean, the Bengals came up just short versus Kansas City. They went to the Super Bowl the year before, so they're like right on the cusp. I mean, adding a great offensive lineman like Orlando Brown can't hurt you. It can only help you. But I mean, I think it all lies in Joe Burrow. Really, he's the one making the throws. He's the one dictating the offense. I mean, there's only so much one offensive lineman can do. But that being said, it is a big game changer that they have another receiver that can kind of, I mean, not receiver, another lineman that can protect Joe Burrow to not have him be hit as much. That's been an issue for him in the past, and keeping Joe Burrow is healthy is extremely important throughout the duration of the season.
Yeah, I agree. I really like the move. Orlando Brown's really, really solid. It's just weird to me that the Bengals left tackle Jonah Williams requested a trade like shortly after this move got announced, and I don't know. It's because he strictly wants to be a left tackle. I don't know why he said that would be your right tackle, or help on the offensive line any way I can, so I can stick here because I can win a Super Bowl here. It was weird, but I think Brown's a great move. He's young. He's solid, stayed healthy for a lot of his career, played, I'm reading here, 75 of his 81 career games, just reliable as they come. And it's not a huge deal, 3 years. And, for someone of his quality, I think he took one of the lesser deals in terms of, year-over-year salary compared to some of the other left tackles in the league. So smart move by the Bengals. Anything you can do to keep Joe Burrow upright is smart by me. And I guess they have to figure out what this Jonah Williams situation is going forward. Now that they found their new guy at left tackle.
I think one of the areas the Bengals have to upgrade is actually a tight end. They've had a couple of tight ends that have left. Uzomah went to the Jets. Hayden Hurst just left. Just went to the Panthers on a 3-year deal. So, I mean, I think they're gonna have to fill the tight end position for Joe Burrow. That's one of their biggest weaknesses right now.
Yeah, that might be a good one to fill in the draft. And regarding our pass rushers, we have people like Draymond Jones go to Seattle. Snacks Harris is going from Cleveland to the Vikings. I think the big one here is the 49ers landing Javon Hargrove from Philly. It seems Philly has had a unique offseason themselves.
Yep.
But adding to an explosive defensive line with like people like Nick Bosa, is this going to be a major move for the 49ers?
Yeah. He's as solid as the tackle as they come, D-tackle. Or defensive lineman, I should say, in Hargrave, and you put him in that system that just, is a dominant defense like we saw last year. Takes pressure off Bosa, and he wreaks havoc. I'm happy we don't have to face him 2 times a year going forward. So good riddance to Hargrave, but I think it's a great pickup by the 49ers. I think he's just a dynamic guy. The Eagles are going through it. They literally lost the majority of their key defensive players from last year.
And their defensive coordinator, too.
And the defensive coordinator. So it's just a very interesting offseason for the Eagles. But I think it's just a really smart move by the 49ers, get someone of his caliber. I know he's getting paid $21 million per year. It's a big deal, but he's a great defensive guy, great leader. We just saw that with the Eagles, and just adding even more firepower to this 49ers defense.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things, like, the Eagles had, I think, the most sacks in NFL history at one point. So, like, they have a dominant defensive line, the Eagles. So I think the 49ers last year lost to the Eagles in the NFC Championship game. So if they want to get back, I think they're going to have to, like you said previously, they beef up the defensive line. So picking up a guy from the Eagles who had one of the best defensive lines ever last year and got to the quarterback at an all-time high, I think is a smart move, because it's really going to bolster their pass rush for Nick Bosa, like you said.
Make sure the Chiefs fans don't hear.
You can never have too many pass rushers. That's how the Giants have won Super Bowls. Giants won Super Bowls in 2007 and 2011 because they had a pass rush with Messiah Skiwanuka, Justin Tuck, Osi Umenyiora, just a few of the guys who really helped them get after Brady in both those Super Bowls. And that's how they ended up winning their Super Bowl, because they constantly hit the quarterback. I feel like if the 49ers could do that,
I like that. I like it.
They got a chance to go back to the NFC title game.
And with the linebackers, now again, a little quiet in that position. Oh, the Giants need it. They added, I don't know how to pronounce this. Is it Okiri from the Colts? Bobby Okiri?
Bobby Okirike. I think he said in an interview once. Is how you correctly pronounce it. There's people. I used to thought it was Okariki. That's how I thought it was, but I think he said in an interview once it's Okarike, if I'm not mistaken. But sorry for butchering your name. But welcome to the Giants.
We'll get his name right for sure this upcoming season. My one question is, for the future Hall of Famer who had an okay year in his hometown team for the LA Rams, Bobby Wagner, do we see him signing anywhere, or is he gonna hang it up?
You get another run. I think someone will pick him up.
I think the Giants should, if they could fit
I would love him, but if they fit him under a cap, I would say go for it. I think he just wants to go to a more I should say reliable contender, where you kind of know that you have a really, really good shot of winning a Super Bowl compared to being with the Giants. But he didn't have a bad year last year. I think he was cap casualty this year. I think he's still going to have another season, maybe one more, and I think he'll hang it up after. But it'll be interesting to see where Bobby Wagner goes. I think he can still be productive in this league. He showed it last year.
Yeah, no, I agree with you on that. Bobby Wagner has obviously a Hall of Fame linebacker. He's been an unbelievable player. He was productive last year. So, he's only 32 years old. It's not like he's, like 35 or 40. But he's definitely a productive player. Who do I think he's going to go to? That's a pretty difficult question. Obviously, like you said, you want to go to a Super Bowl contender. It's really difficult to say who he's going to go to at this point. I don't. The NFC is a little bit weak. A team that would be good for him to go to maybe would be the Minnesota Vikings. Actually, if they want to, they won 13 games, so that's a team that could lack after. Maybe the Detroit Lions if they want to bolster their competition. So just a couple of those teams that I thought from the NFC wouldn't be bad. Maybe the Lions or the Vikings.
Now the last group of positions will be the defensive backs. Don't really have much to discuss regarding the kickers and punchers, but again, never take the foot out of football. But the defensive backs have been going all over the place with the cornerbacks and free safeties and all of that. So I don't know where to start with this deep and dense list. Jalen Ramsey is going to Miami. Darius Slay and James Bradbury are staying. It seems like they're going to be the only two vets staying on this Eagles team. Jesse Bates goes from Cincy to Atlanta. Cam Sutton is going from the Steelers to Detroit. Arba Hill is going to Cleveland. Patrick Peterson hanging in there, going to the Steelers. Out of all these major moves regarding the defensive backs, which but one is going to change the league the most? Which one is going to be like, oh shit, now that he's on this defense, everything is changing? Is it a Jalen Ramsey what's growing there? I think that might be a team to really watch out for, with the Dolphins having quite the offseason. That's going to be a major move there. I think that's the most interesting one for me personally.
Yeah, I'm going to have to agree with you on the Jalen Ramsey one. I think it's going to change the way how Josh Allen, Rodgers, or the quarterbacks for the Patriots kind of throw it at the Miami Dolphins. They're gonna be a hard team to throw with. You got Xavier Howard, Jalen Ramsey. They have one of the best secondaries in the league right now. So they're trying to compete with the Jets because the Jets have Sauce Gardner and DJ Reed at their corner position. I want to say the Buffalo Bills. I believe they still have Tre'Davious White with Buffalo Bills.
He's still there.
He's still there. So they have him. They have him as a cornerback. So it's that division right now is stacked with great corners. So it's going to be a tough division to throw the ball against. And I think Miami wants to compete with the Jets, the Patriots, and the Bills in terms of their secondaries. So I feel like that was a great move by their part, Miami, to bring Jalen Ramsey there.
Yeah, I agree. We were expecting a lot more when we heard that his name was up in trade talks. We were expecting at least a second or maybe a low first. Obviously, Dolphins will have one. But you would think when you heard the Rams were on the market, that someone would dangle that to get him. They only got him, I think, for like a third and a fifth. I know the third was. So, the Dolphins shore up their defense with an all-pro type corner. I think they're going to be a really, really interesting team. Their defense is coming together. I think they need a few more pieces, but I really like what they did. I think acquiring Jalen Ramsey kind of solidifies that. And again, low risk move. I know they're taking in a boatload of money, or a good amount of Jalen Ramsey's contract, but again, third round pick, you got an all-pro corner, solidify your defense and have your leader out there. Great move by the Dolphins. I think it's going to be really, really exciting. I think that whole division's defenses are going to be a lot of fun to watch this upcoming year.
They're going to eat and watch them cook. But yeah, that wraps us up, guys. Hitting all the major free agency moves. We definitely will have an NFL draft show a month from now, but it keeps on coming. And before you know it, we might even have to do another free agency show right before this draft. But I just want to thank Hayden Nadler and Alex Young for the great work as always. Definitely catch them next week as we preview the MLB season as well. And thank you for tuning in. And there's a reason why we're soon to be one of the greatest podcasting groups of all time. Simple as that. Thank you, Hayden and Alex, and we'll see you next week.
See you guys in the next one. Later, guys.